in front of over 25,000 people at the Georgia Dome. WCW recapped the main storyline from the last week with Nash, Savage and George, building the unopposed hour-on segments to set up 2 title matches for later tonight. Savage and Seed came out mid-match with Nash showing up on screen, setting up Nash vs. Seed for the belt, with Savage asking where George is and telling Nash that he's a dead man the moment he finds him. A few minutes later Rick and David Flair walked out. Rick said that with Scott Steiner out with injury, and with David beating Nash via countout last week, he's awarding David the U.S. title with a celebration set for later in Atlanta, bringing out Bagwell to challenge David and set up a U.S. title match. Bret Hart's television return was next in a segment set to be unlike any other on both programs. To set the stage, a video package recapped the events since May 24 and aired Bret's tribute to Owen in the Calgary Sun written days after the tragedy, with Bret told backstage by Eric to go as long as he feels, with the segment having no time restriction set. Bret walked to the ring at 8:55 to a massive ovation. Unlike a typical face or heel reaction, everybody realized that this is different and showed one of the all-time greats of the industry respect in a difficult time. Bret thanked the fans all around the world for their support and condolences to him and his family, in addition to WCW for giving him the time he needs to collect himself before coming back. Bret said that Owen was his closest brother and friend, with him taking pride knowing the man Owen grew up to be, and a consensus inside the business. Bret continued saying that when he was asked by Bischoff to come back tonight, he thought he would be ready to talk about his future, but standing in the ring right now he's having a hard time with the crossroads he's at. Saying that him and his family live for wrestling, and now they've died for wrestling. Bret, who was fighting back tears throughout, said that he doesn't want it to end on a tragedy, that he's given his whole life to wrestling but maybe it's time to move on to another field. Concluding that he's gonna take some time to think about everything, thanking all the wrestlers and dressing rooms around the world, and the fans who have been with him all the way from the start, ending one of the unique, more emotional segments in wrestling TV history to a huge ovation from the crowd. Steve Austin opened responding to Undertaker's challenge last night on Heat for a First Blood match, accepting the match and mentioning the last First Blood match he was in, which Taker cost him last year against Kane, saying that Payback is coming at Fully Loaded. Vince came out saying that the World Wrestling Federation is not big enough for both Austin and McMahon, adding a stipulation that if Austin beats Taker, he would not have to see him again, but if he loses, Austin can never be champion again. Austin accepted, with Vince saying that one way or another it will be the end of an era. The Bret interview only crossed over the next quarter for 4 minutes, with the rest having Eddie Guerrero backstage saying that his wallet was stolen, commercials and the start of Cat vs. Jerry Flynn in a worked kickboxing match, with Miller disqualified after an illegal strike. Raw jumped over 700,000 viewers to a 5.8 rating at the second quarter, with Rock arriving to the building along with a backstage promo. Rock introduced Cole to his new SmackDown Hotel t-shirt, being genetically electrifying 365 days a year including leap year, before hyping the cage match main event tonight, in addition to the Acolytes vs. Hardy Boys match, with the Hardys winning their first tag titles. With WCW not having the same momentum it had in July '98 and January '99, the attendance at the Georgia Dome was lower than those shows, but all things considered, with the show coming a day after the 4th of July, still drew a massive crowd of over 25,000 people. With both shows coming in a holiday weekend, viewership was expected to be down across the board from normal due to less people watching television on the night. While on topic for TV wrestling, with Raw and Nitro drawing a combined audience of over 11–12 million viewers, leading to the biggest breakthrough in the history of the third promotion, WCW, announcing a TV deal with TNN for a weekly Friday night TV show, in what is expected to be the biggest game changer to expand its audience. Piper called out Sting, questioning him on the Hummer driver mystery, before the fake Sting came out with Piper laying him out. Piper then booked himself against Bagwell for the pay-per-view Sunday in a 10 3-minute round-taped fist match, with Dillon bringing out Judge Mills Lane to referee it. Raw had a wild hardcore match with Al Snow and D'Lo brawling all over the building, with some creative spots from the concession stand to an escalator, catering area and pay phones, with D'Lo telling him to use 1-800-COLLECT in reference to his TV commercial spot for them. After popping the big number for the main event last week, it was again David Flair in a title match with Bagwell vs. Flair for the US title opening the third hour. Bagwell dominated and had the match won, with Robinson stopping the count, leading to Piper coming out to knock Bagwell out for Flair to retain. Going against it, Raw had an unusual top-of-the-hour segment with 3 matches in the quarter hour. First was Road Dogg against Val Venis, ending when cops came out to arrest Road Dogg and X-Pac after an angle earlier where Chyna had DX graffiti sprayed on her car. Second match saw Jeff Jarrett vs. Chaz for the IC title, with Deborah, who was one of the biggest ratings movers, put in a main time slot, and Edge vs. Bossman coming up next, with the 3-match quarter bumping Raw into the 6 rating range with a 6.1. Next, WCW had Doug Dillinger calling all the masked wrestlers after Eddie told him that his wallet was stolen by someone with a mask, leading to Eddie reacting to each one's face reveal in a comedic segment that showed a side of Eddie that in later years will define his career. Hack in a backstage promo talked about being extreme all his life, calling out every wrestler on the roster who think they can take him for an hardcore junkyard match, set to be one of the most violent matches in company history. After the music video premiere last week, Rap is Crap was getting big exposure and aired on stations across the country, with Hennig and the Cowboys doing the first live performance on the show. With the fully loaded end of an era match set, reports were coming on Vince McMahon being involved in a motorcycle accident yesterday, suffering a tailbone injury. With Raw taped on June 29 before the accident took place, Vince's physical condition will likely be known from the Sunday's Heat or next Monday's Raw. After months of back-and-forth negotiations, Chris Jericho officially signed with the World Wrestling Federation on June 30th. With the company announcing on WWF.com, even with Jericho still under contract with WCW until the end of the month. With Jericho giving WCW notice in April, with him still scheduled for house show matches before leaving. Tag matches were on next, with WCW having Paige Bigelow and Kanyon against Benoit Malenko and Saturn, with Raw having Big Show and Holly against Kane and X-Pac, with Taker coming out to give Show a stiff chair shot to the head, opening him up as a message to Austin, with Raw jumping around 700,000 viewers. The hype Megadeth performance was placed to start just before the main event, with them performing Crush 'Em, a song said to also feature in the upcoming Universal Soldier movie which Bill Goldberg had a part in. After the song ended, the lights went out and a voice was heard saying that he's back, revealing Goldberg on stage as the stadium exploded, making his TV return in almost 2 months, but with the status of his official return to the full-time schedule still unknown. With the Goldberg return unadvertised, the final quarter, which also featured the entrances of Sid and Nash going head-up with The Rock vs Triple H cage match on Raw, dropped to a 2.1 rating, the lowest rated segment on Nitro in years. Rock and Hunter made their entrances with 15 minutes from time, with JR saying that they took all their commercial breaks and will stay with the match to its conclusion. Going 14 minutes, peaking tonight with a 6.6 rating. Nash and Sid started already in the overrun, with Savage running in after a few minutes to attack Nash, bringing out the fake and real Sting for their post-match angle, with Nash powerbombing the real Sting in the go-home segment for the tag main event at Bash at the Beach Sunday. Nash then took the microphone telling Savage that George is at the back, with Savage finding her with Tori and aggressively attacking both, slapping Tori while ripping the shirt and throwing George as the show went off the air. The match and post-match segments, which went 8 minutes in the overrun including over 2 minutes unopposed, picked up big from the show low, gaining over 1.9 million viewers to a show-high 3.8 rating. After interferences from China with Rock having the match won, Rock and Hunter exchanges big spots in the ring until both were sitting at the top of the cage, with China giving Hunter a chair to hit Rock with a shot to the head. Rock and Hunter went to escape from different sides of the ring, with Rock eventually hitting the floor first to go over, as Billy Gunn ran in attacking Rock to close the show. New WCW champion Randy Savage opened the show after pinning Nash in the Bash at the Beach tag main event last night. Savage said that Nash couldn't handle the madness, challenging anybody on the roster but Nash to a WCW title match tonight. Moments later, the Jimi Hendrix guitar was heard as Hollywood Hogan made his return to a big reaction. Hogan asked Gene if he's hearing things or did Macho say anybody? With Savage immediately saying that a mistake was made as he forgot to mention it's anybody but Nash and Hogan. Hogan said that it's too late with the match booked, as Savage told him that he's gonna beat him and get him the hell out of here for good tonight, setting up a big Savage vs Hogan title match in the main event. WCW's other promoted match for tonight was set to start at 9 p.m. in the crossover segment with Ric Flair vs Dean Malenko. The entrances took place minutes before 9, with Eric Bischoff also coming out for commentary, set to be involved in several angles and to hype the Hogan-Savage match throughout the show. Flair called security to remove Benoit and Saturn from ringside, while putting Robinson as the referee. Flair and Malenko went 9 minutes with Robinson calling it and awarding Flair the match after Dean reversed the figure 4, with Anderson and Flair attacking him post-match, bringing out Sting for the save. Sting said that 10 years ago Flair was holding back people with him on top, and 10 years later he's still here in the same position, challenging Flair to put control of the company on the line in a match. Flair responded that he's still here because he's the man and the boss, and the match is not happening, but said that it's about time another Flair beat him up, booking Sting vs David for the control match against Trick. The Flair-Malenko match along with the Sting-Flair segment maintained better than usual, starting with a 3.5 opening quarter rating against a big star power segment on Raw, with the 3.5 to 4.7 gap of 1.2 rating points, the closest in over a month. Coming off the big news of Jesse Ventura signing a deal with McMahon for an appearance at the SummerSlam pay-per-view, Raw opened with Steve Austin out for the fully loaded contract signing, bringing out Vince on a wheelchair after a legit tailbone injury suffered in a motorcycle accident on July 4, with JR and Vince himself both acknowledging the situation to the mass audience on air. Vince said that no accident would keep him from coming out tonight and signing the contract, but telling Austin to sign it first, stalling with the signing until the lights went out and Taker attacked him from behind, with Vince pulling up a fountain pen and signing the contract in Austin's blood. After the relatively close first quarter, there was a direct million viewers turnover as WCW dropped to a 2.7, while Raw picked up to a 5.5. WCW had Kidman vs. Regal going 11 minutes, with Kidman almost injuring himself after a missed shooting star press that saw him landing on the ropes, with Eric counting the fall for the Kidman win. Raw had the first Brood match with Edge vs. Gangrel after turning on Edge last night on Heat, going 6 minutes until both ended on stage with Edge pushed to the fire pit. JR and King hyped the Ventura announcement big throughout the night, promoting a big SummerSlam press conference to air on the company website on Wednesday, with every major player in the company set to attend, with JR announcing that Ventura and McMahon, Rock, Austin, Taker, DX etc. are all going to be at the event. Starting anticipation for Governor Ventura's first response promo back after public feuds with Vince Hogan and Bischoff, with him and Hogan trading shots for years, and Eric cutting a shoot promo on him just a few weeks ago on Nitro in May. With business booming and both now at a peak, McMahon and Ventura put personal issues aside, with the company targeting big mainstream exposure and a huge SummerSlam pay-per-view. Sting vs. David Flair ended up with Sting fighting off Flair's crew, with him having the match won several times, leading to Eric on commentary saying that after talks with TNT management, the Sting vs. Ric Flair match for control of the company is officially booked for next week, with Eric also announcing that Dennis Rodman will be on Nitro next Monday. After trying to stop the blood for the last 30 minutes, Steve Austin ran to the ring during a Jarrett promo, giving him a stunner and calling out Taker for a no rules anything goes match tonight. Show came out saying that it's gonna be 2-on-1 anyway, so make it 2-on-2 with Austin and Show against Taker and Kane for later, with Austin coming back to give Jarrett another stunner, with talks of a possible mini-program between them. WCW presented the Hardcore Trophy to Fit Finlay after winning the Junkyard match last night in one of the most brutal matches in company history that saw several of the participants ending up in the hospital. The peak quarter of the night came at the top of the hour, scheduled for a Kane and DX six-man tag match. The lights went out with Kane not showing up, with Rock coming out to a huge pop to start the match, jumping over 1.2 million viewers to a 6.7 rating. Ending up with Rock pinning Billy Gunn to win the match, coming 24 hours after Rock cut the all-time memorable promo on Heat with Billy talking to God. The wrestling industry continues its unprecedented dominance on cable television, with the latest TV charts from the end of March to the end of June, showing that 26 out of the 30 highest-rated hours were all WWF and WCW shows. To go along with that, the WWF's corporate website released the Raw average rating month by month, showing 2.4 in March '97, 3.8 in March '98 and 6.3 in March '99, an unheard of 166% increase over 2 years. Next on WCW was Dallas Page vs. Booker, going against an Al Snow vs. Droz hardcore match, Mark Henry and D'Lo leaving the building after the doctor told Henry to lose weight with his blood pressure too high, along with the Big Shot Bob Holly coming out attempting to take out the Acolytes by himself and comically slapping Bradshaw before getting beaten down with Show bailing him out. WCW's last 40 minutes of the show saw 2 long matches picking up big. First was Booker vs. Page going 16 minutes, with Bigelow and Kanyon attacking Booker post-match leading to Stevie Ray to make the save as the crowd started a big Harlem Heat chant, along with the entrances of Savage and Hogan, with the show having around 25 minutes left, picking up to a 3.7 rating. Going against it was Test in a gauntlet match against the Posse, ending up with him dominating until a Shane run-in, bringing out Stephanie with Shane accidentally elbowing her in a well-executed spot that saw the crowd gasp in unison. After over 2 hours of hype, Savage and Hogan walked to the ring at around 10:40, going 14 minutes in the main event. In the last decade, Hogan vs. Savage was as close to a guaranteed drawing boost as anything in the history of the business, with them set for their last ever match, picking up big with over 1.5 million viewers over 2 quarters to a 4.7 rating, WCW's highest rating since April. With Hogan going over after Nash's interference to win the belt in his first match back. Just before Raw's main event, a countdown to the Millennium Timer appeared with 671 hours to go, building anticipation to the reveal with the clock set to expire on Monday, August 9th at around 10 p.m. Austin and Show against Undertaker and Kane in their first match back closed the show in a wild brawl all over the arena, going 10 minutes with Austin and White going over. Post-match segment on Nitro saw Nash take the microphone telling Hogan that now is the second time he handed him the belt, challenging him to finally deliver the Hogan vs. Nash match, saying that this time there would be no laydown, with Hogan agreeing to set it up. With WCW overall doing a 3.5 rating to Raw's 6, the closest head-to-head margin since April. The Raw Tag Match Brawl continued in the overrun, going 6 minutes including the final minute unopposed to pick up around 1 million viewers to a 7.2 rating peak, with Austin bleeding again in the build-up to the fully loaded match. In front of a hot crowd in Rockford, Illinois, WCW opened the show hyping 2 main event matches for later tonight. First was the booked Flair vs. Sting for control of the company, the second was the WrestleMania 8 main event rematch with Hogan vs. Seed for the belt. In an attempt of freshening up the show, lead announcer Tony Schiavone was replaced by WCW Saturday Night host Scott Hudson for the night. WCW's unopposed hour saw Seed and Hogan coming out for promos to hype up the match. Hogan did an interview on the WCW website opening up on several subjects in the company. One of the main ones was Goldberg's dispute with management over a new deal. While Goldberg was out with knee injury for months, perhaps the bigger issue was negotiations behind the scenes for a major bump in pay, comparing his deal to other top names like Hogan, Savage, Bret, Sting, Nash, Hall, Luger etc., noting his workload and top main event position not matching his pay. Hogan, who a few months back took shots at Goldberg while it was going on, said that Bill is ready to come back and the deal is done, with him knowing it because his attorney is now Goldberg's, saying that if Goldberg gets his head right he has unlimited potential. Flair vs. Sting was placed to start in the crossover segment, making their entrances 7 minutes from the top of the hour. Going 9 minutes with Sting dominating throughout, taking out every member of Flair's crew before Bischoff came to the ring to call for the bell, with Sting taking control, ending Flair's 7-month run as the on-air president. Post-match saw Sid taking out Sting and powerbombing Eric, with Hogan coming out for the save in the build to the main event. "6 days from Fully Loaded, Vince McMahon and the corporate ministry came out selling the idea that this might be McMahon's final Raw appearance. Vince said that he's not promising but guaranteeing that Austin will lose the title Sunday, telling Undertaker that it's not only his career on the line but Taker as well. Taker took the microphone, starting to go off on McMahon, leading to Triple H siding with Vince and Taker and Hunter turning on each other, starting to build for the Taker split, with Vince booking Taker vs. Hunter for the title shot. Taker said that Triple H's blood will be on his hands tonight, and Sunday he's gonna bathe in Steve Austin's. Moments later the glass broke and Austin drove a bloodmobile into the arena to a big reaction, telling Taker that if he wants blood he brought him a truck full of it, promising that before the night is over he's gonna lock him in the bloodmobile and take a donation from Vince's skull, starting a show-long angle. With the Hogan-Nash Road Wild main event looking to be a babyface match, Nash came out attacking Horace Hogan, with Hulk telling him that he thought it was only business, as Nash started to establish himself as the heel in the match, telling him that he lied as it's a personal issue between them. In the build to the McMahon blood spot, Triple H and the corporate ministry were sitting around Vince for protection in a series of segments throughout the show, with a cameraman following Austin in the building. The Shane test Stephanie angle continued, with Shane calling out Stephanie to the ring, ending up with her siding with Test in the build to the planned SummerSlam payoff. Next, WCW had Kanyon vs. Stevie Ray, this time with Booker making the save for Ray in the build to the Harlem Heat reunion. In a high-profile press conference at Minnesota's Target Center on Wednesday, with every top name in the company and a big crowd of media reporters and channels from all across the country, Vince McMahon officially announced Governor of Minnesota Jesse Ventura to be the special referee in the WWF title match main event at the SummerSlam pay-per-view. Ventura and McMahon went back and forth in interesting exchanges during the press conference based on their public relationship over the last 20 years, with Ventura refusing to shake Vince's hand and saying that McMahon can't stand it when someone is more powerful than him, as in this state it's his way or the highway, and the same will happen at SummerSlam. One exchange saw Steve Austin giving Ventura a title belt, saying that Ventura didn't win it in his career because the corrupt promoter McMahon never gave him a shot, with Vince in character comically saying that it was all Hogan's fault and he had nothing to do with it. With years of heat between them, Hogan reacted to the news of Ventura's return to the business, saying that in the 70s and 80s Jesse was known for his hotel room smoking parties, and that he's sure he's getting a big 7-digit payday from McMahon, while after knocking the business for years taking care of himself first as he always did. Ventura's pay for the event was a major topic of conversation as he's benefiting from his status as a sitting governor. Ventura responded saying his appearance fee, which will be $100,000, will be donated to charity, and that he's getting another fee for his appearance as Jesse the Body the character, saying that the fee will remain confidential, leading to speculation on the number. With the industry booming and given what other outside names got for their appearances, Ventura's deal is expected to be well into 7 figures. Rock came out to a huge ovation from the Lexington crowd, with every corner of the Rupp Arena covered in Rock signs from top to bottom. Arriving to the building earlier, Rock signed an autograph while debuting the iconic "It Doesn't Matter" catchphrase for the first time in a face-to-face interaction, coming 8 days after its debut on Heat was widely praised across the board as an all-time great segment, with the company replaying it on all their weekend shows. Rock cut a promo on Billy Gunn hyping their match coming up next. Next was Randy Savage coming to the ring talking about last week's title match, saying that Nash stole his belt, while telling Hogan that he will run against him for the 2000 presidency. Before his match with Billy Kidman coming up, saying that Kidman is not ready yet for the madness. Savage and Kidman went 7 minutes with Savage in control but bumping and selling big for Kidman's spots. With Savage having the match won after 2 elbow drops, suddenly Dennis Rodman ran to the ring hitting Savage from behind, starting a big brawl to start the build for a Savage vs Rodman match. Gene Antoni, in his only appearance on the night, tried to get Rodman's comments with him unpredictable as usual, while Savage was going crazy and being held off with the crowd popping big throughout. The end of the Savage-Kidman match, and the Savage-Rodman segment peaked the night for WCW, jumping over 700,000 viewers to a 3.7 rating, in addition to a Conan vs Vampiro match. Rock vs Billy Gunn crossed over the top of the hour, going 7 minutes in a fast-paced match, ending up with Chyna hitting Rock with a chair after having the match won with their rock bottom, leading to Gunn going over. Buff Bagwell came out to Cat's music doing a comedy impersonation of Miller in the build to their Road Wild match, while Raw had Test vs Blackman with Shane's Posse and Shamrock interfering to continue the build to the programs. After a few months of back-and-forth rumors on the move, Shane Douglas made his WCW debut, jumping from Heyman's ECW, reportedly signing a 3-year contract with the company. Doing a run-it to join Benoit, Saturn and Malenko against Hennig's Cowboys. Douglas, who outside of a light ECW chant was only recognized by a percentage of the audience, as the vast majority of the WCW fanbase wasn't watching ECW. cut a strong promo saying that starting tonight things will change in the company, as from where he is, if someone holds you down you bash their heads and take the spot, starting the build to a rumored Flair's Horseman faction feud with them having legit heat from years prior to it. Raw started to pick up big at around 10:45 p.m., first jumping over 800,000 viewers in the last quarter for the show and Holly vs. Kane and X-Pac segment, which saw Taker come out and choke slamming X-Pac to keep Kane on his side, with Kane later seeing it and turning on Taker to a big pop to join X-Pac. Along with the promoted Undertaker vs. Triple H match going 4 minutes into Austin's interference. Cena and Hogan made their entrances at 10:55 p.m., with Hudson telling viewers that they agreed with TNT management and going way past 11 until the conclusion of the match. In the 1992 Mania headliner, with the other two headliners on the night and Savage and Flair also on the card tonight, Hogan and Cena went 9 minutes with Nash attacking Hogan for the DQ, bringing out Sting and Rick Steiner for the post-match brawl. While that was going on, an unfamiliar music started which later was heard as Megadeth's Crush 'Em song, with Goldberg making his return with the crowd popping huge once they realized who it is. Clearing the ring from the new three-heel group to close the show with Hogan and Sting, with WCW bumped to a 3.5 rating for the over 8 minutes overrun. Raw went 8 minutes in the overrun for the go-home segment to Fully Loaded, jumping over 900,000 viewers more for one of the highest opposed peaks recorded with a 7.7 rating, having the two top matches for the pay-per-view in the final build with Rock going after Hunter and Austin going after Taker to eventually get to McMahon. Austin told the cameraman following him that it's time to get Vince's blood, ending up with him and Taker brawling to the Bloodmobile and Austin locking him inside, and Rock taking out Triple H to leave McMahon alone, giving him a belt shot to the head with Vince doing a major blade job in the payoff to the show angle. Closing the show with Paul Bearer releasing Taker, opening up Austin again to leave a bleeding Austin and McMahon laying next to each other in a strong go-home segment and momentum for Sunday. Coming off the Fully Loaded pay-per-view with a massive audience expected on Raw, WCW started with Hogan and Nash setting up a tag match with mystery partners for the main event, in addition to a video package for Goldberg to establish his new Megadeth song, showing Hennig's footage from Thunder challenging him to a match. With Eric Bischoff going to outside names to bring more exposure to the product. After the Megadeth performance on July 5, the company hyped a Kiss performance set for next month. With Vince McMahon himself doing several talk shows and interviews in the last month, the most talked about one was done on July 22 for TSN's Off the Record, talking in depth for the first time on the Owen tragedy and the decision not to stop the show. The funeral cost controversy, in addition to making headlines on the Canadian show by taking personal shots at Bret Hart, saying that he barely mentioned Owen during their meeting, with Bret responding as he previously said, was told not to talk about Owen due to the lawsuit going on, as the Hart-McMahon issues escalated to new heights. Sting came out for his first show as president of the company, saying that somebody in the back wants a tag partner for tonight, telling Hogan that if he turns on him he's gonna get him later. Unlike the usual promoted segment at the top of the hour, the crossover segment started with a match that was interrupted by an unannounced Randy Savage 50 seconds in. Savage called out Hogan, Nash and Rodman before being interrupted by Team Madness. As that was going on in the ring, Dennis Rodman showed up on stage kidnapping George with Savage running after him. Minutes later it was another unannounced appearance as Bill Goldberg came out accepting Curt Hennig's challenge from Thunder, setting up Goldberg vs. Hennig in Goldberg's first match from injury. The Big Raw from Cleveland started fast with Taker backstage at the Gund Arena attacking both X-Pac and Road Dogg after interference last night helped cost him the match. Eventually getting to the ring with Kane coming out for the save and Big Show and Taker joining forces to lay them out. Moments later a limousine arrived and Vince McMahon came out with the announcers selling the surprise with Vince breaching the contract of him taking himself off television. The WWF from the creative to talent with the expected increased interest on top of already peak numbers, put on one of the most eventful Raw broadcasts of all time, with major angles coming up one after another in a fast-paced format. After Waltman was taken out in an ambulance, during a tag match of the Acolytes against Edge and Christian, Kane was back to the ring taking out everyone involved, before asking for the microphone to a big pop from the crowd for the first Kane promo, promising to take Taker and Show after their attack on Waltman. With footage showing that after the ambulance drove off, Blackman ran over Shamrock in the parking lot to continue advanced storylines. Vince walked to the ring at 9:28 p.m. for the official farewell segment, with Austin Schoen arriving to the building moments prior to it to signal to viewers that the confrontation is coming up next. Next on TNT was David Flair and Tori coming out for a promo, with David cutting an H-heel promo and hyping up the match with Benoit for tonight. While backstage Randy Savage continued to go crazy, running to Rodman's trailer outside the building. Vince started that he's not here to break a promise and breach the contract, saying that he didn't want last night surrounded by blood and beer to be his final appearance, wanting to come to Raw for a more formal farewell so people can remember him the way he looks tonight, bringing out Steve Austin to the ring, promoted as the final confrontation of the program that helped lit up the company to unimaginable heights. Vince told Austin that even if it seems like they're worlds apart, deep down they're just alike, offering a handshake with Austin refusing, saying that with everything McMahon put him through in the last 2 years, the more fun he had proving him that he could never take him out, bringing JR to the ring to sing the goodbye song and write McMahon off television. The segment, which gained around 1.3 million viewers, drew a huge 7.8 rating, the highest rated segment in Monday Night War's history. Bill Goldberg's in-ring return was next, working his first televised match back since May with him signing a new massively increased contract. Goldberg and Hennig placed to start at the end of the second hour, went 3 minutes with Goldberg going through the entire Cowboys faction, bumping WCW over 1 million viewers to a 3.5 rating. With Rock artistically distancing himself from any other performer in the industry by the week, his performances and promos became a standalone spectacle in itself, with viewers' anticipation to see how he tops himself again on the night. Coming a day after a memorable promo making a mockery out of Triple H's complaints about being buried after the curtain call, using Cole again as a merchandise stand and running down Hunter, Gunn and Chyna in another classic promo. In the build-up to the Road Wild pay-per-view, WCW aired a video package on Hogan and Nash's history from '96 to '99, going through all the major moments from the formation of the NWO, the split to Wolfpack and Hollywood and the reunion match at the Georgia Dome. When it looked like Raw has peaked after the record segment 20 minutes ago, Triple H and Chyna came out with Hunter hyping his SummerSlam title match against Austin, while debuting his game nickname after the JR interview an hour before Fully Loaded. Chyna then called out Rock, coming out before being attacked by Billy Gunn. Rock took the microphone cutting a promo and challenging Gunn and Chyna for a handicap match later to set up the main event. The Rock and DX segment, in addition to the first half of a Taker Show and Kane match, gained over 1 million viewers to a 7.8 rating, making it the highest-rated quarter in Monday Night War's history. As with both mega segments rounded up to 7.8 ratings, the McMahon-Austin segment did a 7.77 rating, while the Rock DX segment and handicap match did a 7.81 with around 600,000 viewers more. Records continue to be shattered by the minute as after two all-time peaks in the last 40 minutes, Raw's overall second hour set an all-time record for the highest opposed hour in history with a 7.3 rating, as viewership remained at peak levels, showing interest on every stage of the card with the product booming across the board. WCW started to pick up from 10:30 on, first jumping around 1 million viewers to a 3.5 rating for Chris Benoit against David Flair. With Rick off the show this week after the Sting presidency match, Benoit had the match won with Robinson not counting until Page ran out to give Flair the win, leading to a post-match brawl with the groups. Going up against it, Raw had Triple H entering Austin's dressing room as a cliffhanger just before a commercial break, with JR later letting viewers know that Austin wasn't in the room, along with entrances and first half of Shamrock vs. Hunter. The final quarter saw WCW jumping another 800,000 viewers to a show-high 4.1 rating for the main event tag match, going 9 minutes with Nash revealing Seed as the mystery partner, while Raw took 2 commercial breaks just before the main event. Triple H came back out for the third time tonight on commentary for the match, going back and forth with JR throughout in a continuation of the Heat interview last night. The finish of the tag match saw Nash giving Hogan a chair shot to the head after Rick Steiner's interference, with Hogan doing a blade job and Nash getting the pin. Goldberg ran out post-match but was taken out with Rick's chair shots, ending the show with big heat for the heel group, leaving Goldberg, Hogan and Sting laying out to close the show, peaking the night in the overrun with a 4.4 rating. The Rock vs. Billy Gunn in China main event gained big with over 1.1 million viewers to a 7.5 rating, going 8 minutes with Hunter attacking JR to bring out Austin, while Rock took out Gunn in China in the ring, with the show going off the air just as Rock was about to give Gunn the people's elbow and Austin and Hunter brawling ringside. With the huge combined audience during the overrun at record levels approaching 14 million viewers, meaning an unprecedented figure of over 20% of people watching cable television were tuned into USA and TNT, with Raw overall drawing a record-setting 7.1 rating, the joint highest opposed rating in history.